joining us this evening. We will go ahead and get started. We recognize we've had a little bit of some hiccups with our interpretation tonight, but we have our interpreters here. So if you need Spanish, Cantonese, Vietnamese, or Russian, we have that set up on Zoom. And we are also live on Facebook, where you might be able to turn on closed captioning if need be. We might still be able to set up our ASL interpreter. Apologies for not having that ready here right now, but we'd like to just go ahead and get started for the evening to respect your time and to thank you for joining us. So if you are on Facebook as well, welcome. Thanks for joining. We'll take a little bit of a pause for anyone who needs interpretation to be able to go to that channel. You can find that at the bottom of your screen if you're on your phone. It's a little symbol that you can see here on the screen, a little globe symbol, and it should populate the different languages that we have available tonight. Si nos está acompañando y habla español, puede usar la herramienta de interpretación al seleccionar el icono, que es un globito en la parte inferior de su pantalla, y así nos puede también acompañar y escuchar toda la información en español. Si está en Facebook, le invitamos a que nos acompañe vía el link que hemos compartido en la página de Facebook, para que así pueda escuchar el intérprete en español. Esta tarde, sorry. Well, there's me going into my Spanish mode. Tomorrow's our Spanish session. This is our agenda for tonight. We have kind of shared this widely as well. We'll be covering, what to expect when it comes to the Department of Early Learning and Care launch. As we know, we are transitioning come July 1st. Secondly, employment-related daycare migration and eligibility changes also effective July 1st. And lastly, updates regarding the Central Background Registry, so the CBR. This is a bit of our agenda. And with that, we'll go ahead and hand it over. So, Oregon Department of Early Learning and Care, what to expect.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alyssa Chatterjee. I'm the director of the Early Learning Division. And I know we've been talking about this for a little while, but on July 1st of this year, so a month and a half from now, we are actually going to become the Department of Early Learning and Care. So we wanted to share a little bit with you about what to expect, the hopes we have for the agency, and what you can anticipate will be changing and will be staying the same as we get to July 1st. Go to the next slide, please. So really the goal of the Department of Early Learning and Care, and the reason it was created, was to unify and strengthen the early learning and childcare system. So House Bill 3073 was legislation that was passed in 2021, and it brings multiple programs together, including the employment-related daycare program, so that we can have a single point for families and providers to access information, training, supports, and services when we think about helping communities thrive. Next slide, please. You'll see here, hopefully, a lot of familiar programs. On this next slide, we are going to continue to offer all of the programs that sit within the Early Learning Division. So Baby Promise, our childcare licensing and compliance, CCR&R support, the Early Childhood Equity Fund, Healthy Families Oregon, Preschool Promise, this long list here, as well as the employment-related daycare program, the Inclusive Partners program, and the Teen Parent program, which currently sit with the Oregon Department of Human Services. So this is a really exciting time to bring all of these services and programs together in one place, so that we can have aligned requirements, information collection, and just have a streamlined process for families and providers to get information on all of these different programs that are often serving the same children and families. Next slide. Part of becoming this new agency is an opportunity to redefine kind of what we stand for. So many of you participated in surveys and different engagements we've done over the last year and a half to help us create our mission, vision, and values. So this is different and updated from what you've seen with the Early Learning Division. The mission of the Department of Early Learning and Care is to foster coordinated, culturally appropriate, and family-centered services that recognize and respect the strengths and needs of all children, families, and early learning and care providers. And the vision we're working towards is that all children, families, early care and education professionals, and communities are supported and empowered to thrive. You'll see these core values for the agency: equity, respect, trust, relationships, safety, continuous improvement, and integrity. And our goal is to live those values and make sure that our processes and procedures and policies are really embedded in these values. It's not all going to happen overnight. July 1st is a major milestone with the launch of DELC, but there's a lot of work that's going to happen after the agency launches to make sure that we really can operationalize all of these values and continue to continuously improve our processes to be more responsive to community need. You can go to the next slide. So what to expect? There are some changes that are coming. Some of them are small. We're going to change our email addresses. But if you've got a current email on file, if you've got your licensing specialist email saved, it's going to continue to get forwarded to the new address. And you'll all get notified before that change takes effect. We're also going to get a new website. So many of you are probably familiar with our OregonEarlyLearning.com site. We are going to join other state agencies and be on the Oregon.gov landing page. Will be Oregon.gov/DELC. So you'll see, again, everything will direct to that new site. So you don't have to worry about losing your place. But our goal is to really make sure information is easier to find, easier to follow, and really clean and clear and simple. And that's something that we'll love to get your feedback on as we continue to improve those processes and improve the information that's being shared. We're going to have a new grants management system. So if any of you are preschool promise providers, you're used to EGMS, or the electronic grants management system that the Oregon Department of Education provides. This system is going to be replaced with a new one that is being developed right now and will really be built specifically with early learning and childcare programs in mind, not school districts and large organizations. So our hope is that this system is easy to navigate and use, and you can expect more information over the next couple weeks and months about that new system, training opportunities, and how it works. A big change that we're really excited about is the Office of Child Care is going to become the Child Care Licensing Division. So for those of you who have been providers for a long time, I know you've seen many name changes associated with the Office of Child Care. It used to be called the Child Care Division. It's lived in many agencies. We're really excited about the Child Care Licensing Division to really more accurately explain the work of this really important team. The service delivery will not change. They'll still be doing licensing and inspections. You'll still submit your central background registry applications to us, and you'll still be able to contact them for customer service. They'll just go by a different name going forward. And you can expect that that's going to be a gradual shift with all the many forms and materials that we have available to providers. Next slide. In terms of what's staying the same, it's quite a lot. So again, all the programs that were under the Early Learning Division, including childcare licensing, are moving to DELC. In addition, the employment-related daycare program is moving over, but families can still visit their local ODHS field office or go to the One system at one.oregon.gov to apply for childcare benefits. The process for providers to submit billing forms to the direct pay unit and receive payments will stay the same for now. We have some plans to replace those systems, but that will not be taking effect on July 1st. Our hours of operation, fax numbers, automated system numbers, and phone numbers Our goal is for all of those to stay the same, and we'll be putting out lots of communication before any changes are made. Any questions about the new Department of Early Learning and Care? You can expect a lot more information from us, especially as we get closer to that 30-day countdown.
Thank you, Alyssa. And I do want to note that for folks watching us on Facebook, you are welcome to ask your questions in the chat box as well, or the comment box, sorry, and we are following that as well. We have Ronnie with us to help facilitate questions if there are any.
Alyssa, at this time, I don't see any that are related to DELC.
All right. Happy to keep talking about employment-related daycare then, if you want to go to the next slide. So while the employment-related daycare program is moving from the Department of Human Services to the Department of Early Learning and Care, some of you might have noticed that we've been changing eligibility requirements for the program and some of the operations for the program. So in January, full-time students became eligible. We also shifted our calculations to part-time and full-time, so 20 and 40 hours, to make it easier for families to get the care they need and for providers to bill. And we have more changes coming on July 1st around protected eligibility and categorical eligibility for TANF families. So you can go to the next slide. So starting July 1st, more families are going to be able to stay on employment-related daycare for a full 12 months. Cases are no longer going to close if a family cannot find a provider within 3 months. We know, particularly because the majority of our state is a childcare desert, it can be difficult to find a childcare provider that accepts ERDC. So that will no longer be a reason for a family to be removed from the employment-related daycare program. ERDC benefits will continue if a caretaker loses their job or stops attending school. We recognize that it can be difficult and take time to make these adjustments, and the importance of continuous high quality childcare is important for child development and for family stability. Federal regulations do require that 12-month eligibility for all families who are utilizing this program. So we are approved for 12 months right now, but we know that there have been many reasons why a case might still close. So starting July 1st, that list gets a lot smaller. A case will only close within the 12-month period if the family moves out of state, if there are no longer any eligible children in the home, the family requested the benefits to be closed, the benefits were determined in error, or the family's income exceeds exit income limits, which is a requirement of federal funding. Next slide. In addition to the 12-month protected eligibility, we are also seeing that families receiving TANF will now be eligible for ERDC. So starting on July 1st, any family receiving temporary assistance for needing families will be able to get ERDC to help pay for childcare if needed. For the first time, families will also be able to receive ERDC and TANF at the same time. So this means that if a family is currently receiving TANF, they can ask their family coach for ERDC to help pay for childcare. This will not change the family's TANF benefits, and the TANF childcare program will end because ERDC is now able to provide more flexible childcare assistance. So you will not see TANF childcare offered after July 1st. Instead, families will be able to utilize ERDC. For families who currently participate in ERDC, you may be able to get TANF if you have a job loss or are on unpaid leave from work, or there have been other income reductions. Childcare assistance through ERDC will continue while families receive TANF. So we're really excited about that change. For any families who are new to the benefits, they can apply for cash and childcare assistance, again, through the TANF program, as well as the ERDC program. TANF families must request childcare benefits to get ERDC. This could be at the time of TANF application or during their TANF certification period. And TANF families will be eligible for part-time childcare hours, and those who need more childcare hours can request them. So again, really excited to see that and make it easier for families to be on both programs at the same time. Next slide. This next slide really is going to kind of show how this will work. So there's a couple of examples here. In the first example, a TANF recipient applying for TANF and employment-related daycare together, or applying for ERDC midway through the TANF certification process will be able to stay on their TANF status and ERDC status at the same time, receiving job TANF and until TANF job eligibility ends. ERDC eligibility would continue for those full 12 months, even if the TANF status ends before 12 months are up. In the second example, if a family is an ERDC recipient not eligible for TANF at the beginning, they'll be on ERDC status. If there is a job loss, they would become eligible for TANF. You can see that starts in month 5 in this example, and they would be on TANF status, and that ERDC certification is extended for an additional 12 months, and the copay would be reduced to $0. TANF families will not have a copay for ERDC. So these are just 2 examples of how a family can interact with both the TANF and employment-related daycare programs, depending on their needs over the course of a year. So we're hoping this will make it a lot easier for families to access childcare going forward. I'm happy to try to answer any questions about that.
Alyssa, there aren't any in the Q&A box at this time. They may come in. You just might be doing an exceptionally thorough job.
Thank you, Ronnie. I think I will hand it over to Alicia to talk about Central Background Registry updates.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to be with us this evening. My name is Alicia Gardner, and I am the Director of Office of Childcare. And I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about the Central Background Registry. So a little bit about what it is, why we require it, a little bit about the backlog that we had last fall and earlier this year, and also where we are today. Which is that things are looking a lot better. And so I have great news to share with you all on that front. Next slide, please. So just to begin, I wanted to provide some framing as to why Office of Childcare requires such a comprehensive background check system. And the reason for this is because this is due to a very important block grant that we receive from the federal government, which funds the licensing system as well as ERDC and other systems within DELC. And so part of the requirement for receiving this funding through the federal block grant is that we have to have a comprehensive background check system. So the federal laws require for any state to be eligible for CCDF that they have to have that. States must establish background check requirements for anybody who may have unsupervised access to children, including those who are childcare staff, as well as the providers who are eligible to deliver CCDF funded services. So regulated subsidy providers would fall into that category. Background checks also include, they're required to include 8 specific components, which encompass 3 in-state checks, 2 national checks, and 3 interstate checks. And so Oregon Central Background Registry does meet these requirements. If you move to the next slide, please. This is just an example that kind of shows you the process of the Central Background Registry, kind of the life cycle of an application. So as you can see here on the left-hand side, an applicant would apply, and then prior to getting their fingerprint letter, we verify the application is accurate with prior applications that we may have received or other information that we have on the individual if this is a renewal application. We also verify that the application is complete. And then we run through all of the checks that you can see there on the left-hand side. Once we've run those checks, we then mail the fingerprinting letter with a unique code that is specific to the applicant. And once we receive those fingerprints, we do a conditional enrollment, which means that that individual may begin working within childcare, but they may not be alone with children. And while they begin working in childcare, we work on a full enrollment status. And those checks are there on the right-hand side of the screen, where we do national and state based on fingerprinting. This is also where we would do an out-of-state check. And we also do a CPS check and also a sex offender registry check for any state where applicant has resided in the last 5 years. So while we are working on the fingerprinting and the out-of-state, we usually do a conditional enrollment where an individual can begin working right away after they've done those fingerprints. Next slide. So many of you have either experienced or heard that we went through a backlog last fall of 2022 and earlier in winter 2023. First of all, I wanted to share that we at OCC have been deeply concerned about the CBR backlog and recognize the real impact on programs' abilities to serve families and Oregonians' families being able to find open space in childcare due to the backlog of the CBR. So we did treat resolving this crisis as a top priority. And I'm happy to report that we do have evidence in our data that our strategies are working. So on this slide, you'll see a brief timeline of the history and how the backlog came to be. In February of 2022, Senate Bill 1545, as well as House Bill 4005, passed in the short session, requiring personnel from both unlicensed facilities as well as recorded programs to enroll in the Central Background Registry. In August 2022, we had our renewal periods extended from 2 years to 5, and the 5-year expiration dates of those who were extended back in 2017 or so began to come in. So we were hit with quite a bit of flood of renewal applications and doubled workloads during this time of August 22 in receiving those renewal applications. Simultaneously, our background check unit was significantly short-staffed, with 4 out of 11 positions vacant, as well as down 1 manager. And so it was really creating a perfect storm of a situation where we had far too many applications to process and not enough staff to process them. So we did dig in, and we went through a very quick and robust hiring process where we did increase that cohort, and we hired we increased our team and for a total of 37 positions hired and trained in January. And then we began having them work independently in February. And so from that point in time, we've had a much bigger team that is able to process these checks. And you can see here just down in the trends here for CBR, just to show you the increase from January 2022, down on the bottom left there. For that month, we received 1,700 roughly applications. This year in January, we received 1,000 more than that. Similar trends are found this year in the month of April. So as you can see there, April 22, we received 1,300 applications, but April this year, we've received 2,300 or so. And then as you can see here at the bottom right-hand side, we have just kind of a basic number on how many applications we are approving per month. And as you can see, January and April of 2020, each quarter here, the numbers are going up. October and December of 2022, which was really the height of our backlog, we were able to approve around 4,000 applications. But then you can see there that once we added that capacity with new staff, that number has jumped significantly in the quarter. And we are halfway through this quarter, and we are well on track to approve the applications that are coming to us in a timely way. Next slide. So this is a better update on where we're actually at today. So as you can see, the staffing levels are on the left-hand side, although this, I think we had an error on the side. So we actually have 21 positions in background and 19 positions in customer service and intake. But I think the most impactful data on this slide is really our approval times. So as you can see, in January of 2023, when we completed our hiring, our approval times were quite low. We were approving applications at a rate of only around 26% of all applications we received, both new and renewal. Only 26% of those were approved within 4 weeks. If you jump forward to today, in this month, May 2023, you can now see that we are on a much better track with 81.9% of all applications that we received approved within 4 weeks or less. And also we'll note that 57% of that 81% is actually approved within 2 weeks or less. So we are well on our way in having a much better system, much better service for applicants to get their applications approved in a timely manner. It is important to note that with this data, that OCC will never be at a 100% approval rate due to a certain percentage of applicants who do not complete their fingerprints, perhaps due to finding employment outside of childcare, or also they may have something on their record that prevents them from being enrolled. So the 81% is a very high number, and we are able to process all applications, particularly our new applications, just as quickly as the applicant can get the information to us. Because CBR process involves steps that go back and forth between the applicant and OCC, it's common for lag times based on when the applicant makes a fingerprinting appointment or when they get the out-of-state paperwork to us. So in addition, I'd also like to note that we are in the midst of making some improvements for our customer service team, as well as we're in the midst of an improvement project on improving our job aids and written procedures and manuals, as well as creating new reports for managers to have an easy bird's eye view of the workflow in this unit. So we also now have a 10-year outlook of renewal times, so we're better able to prepare should a large wave of applications hit us again. Next slide. And so just wanted to share some of these things that come up quite often. Now that we feel very confident that we are able to move applications through quickly, we do get inquiries around the applicant's application, where it is in process. And many times when we hear from directors or providers, we run through these questions with them to make sure that the application is completed fully, and any of our correspondence hasn't ended up in a space that's hard to find. So what we would ask for you to do is run through with the applicant if they're feeling like there are delays or they're not hearing from us. Did they provide the correct address, email address, and complete application and complete signature? Did they check their junk mail folder? Many times our correspondence ends up in a junk mail folder. And so that's always a really good place to check if you're feeling like you're waiting to hear from us, you've done everything on your end and you just haven't heard anything. The other thing is if an applicant lists an out-of-state address as their primary or mailing address, we are unable to conditionally enroll them. So if that individual is actually residing within the state, they should provide us an address within the state, and then they would fill out that out-of-state paperwork marking their old residents, and then that way they can get a conditional enrollment and they can start working sooner. Also, did the applicant receive their fingerprinting letter and schedule an appointment? Did they use the unique code that was given to them in their letter from OCC? With these two items, they come up quite frequently where directors will contact us and the applicant just hasn't taken the initiative to get their fingerprinting done. So it's always a great way to ask the person you're trying to hire and get put to work if they've scheduled their appointment, or provide them a reminder that they're going to need to do that with a unique code. Also, did the applicant receive and submit their out-of-state paperwork? And then also just make sure to check your email or mail regularly in case OCC needs more information. So these are some troubleshooting tips that we often run into in OCC when somebody comes to inquire with us. But, you know, if you've run through all of this and there's the answers to all of these, check out, and you know, you're still wondering where the application is, that is no problem. If you move to the next slide, we can give you the contact information where you can inquire with us anytime about the status of an application. So as you can see there, if you're experiencing a delay, you can contact us at our customer service 1-800 number, or email our customer service team. And then down there, we also have the customer service manager, Rochelle Erickson, and her email, should you need to speak to a manager on any of these issues. And then also on this slide, just a reminder that if a renewal application is received by OCC more than 14 days ahead of the expiration date, the CBR enrollment will not expire. Also, due to considerations of confidentiality, we are limited in the amount of information we can provide to anyone who isn't the applicant. And so if there are delays, sometimes it is to the benefit of moving things quickly if we have the applicant contact us rather than a director or provider contacting us on behalf of that applicant. It also can be possible that during OCC's review that something was found on their background check that prevents the applicant from being given a conditional status. So if that happens, the applicant will not be able to work until fully enrolled. And that is what I have for CBR today. I am here for any questions if anybody has any.
Alicia, I have wanted to let you know that Tanya said, yay, that's so great, when you were showing the slides with the improved historical numbers. So Tanya wanted you to know that. And also Christina is asking a question. When you had responded that we will never be 100% in 2 weeks with all of them because of the various issues that come with these applications. Christina wanted to know, then does the agency have a goal? Do we have a percentage that we want to see happen within 2 weeks? Like she was giving an example, for instance, 95% within 2 weeks. Do we have that?
That's a great question. Christina, thanks for asking that. So right now, I would say we're very much in a phase where we're still learning about what our data trends are telling us. And then also, we are in a learning year because we do have so many new applicants that are applying with us out of recorded programs and regulated subsidy programs. You know, we're very excited that we have these new systems that we have built in response to the CBR backlog, and we do track this data every week now, and in the past we hadn't tracked it at this level. So we're really excited that we have these tools in process and we're able to track the data over time. I think we will have a better idea and understanding of what our goals should truly be after about a year of collecting this data. But for right now, our main goal is to make sure that our new applications are moving as quickly as we get them. And when I say that, I mean same day that we receive information from the applicant. So if we receive an application, our goal is to get it verified and assigned over to a background specialist the same day or within 24 hours. And then once that background specialist gets that initial check run, you know, within the next 2 to 3 days at max, then we get that fingerprint letter at the same time frame, around 2 to 3 days after running those checks. And then as soon as we get the fingerprinting information back. Our goal is to get that run as soon as we possibly can. And so working towards the same day or within 24 hours, or at least within 48 hours. So we have lots to learn still. I'd love to come back and report on that. I will also say that we have developed a legislative KPM that looks at our average over the course of the year. And we have that target set, I believe, around 65%. Now, knowing that for May, we have 81% right now, you may ask why so low, but it is because we have January 2023 as a 26% average, and that's back on a previous slide if we want to go back to reference that. But the reason is because that average is bringing us down so much at the beginning of the year. We want to try to bring up our average with all these 80% for over the course of the next several months, so that way we can knock that legislative KPM out of the park and set it for a higher bar next time around. And I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Alicia. And you had actually answered this in addition to a lot of timelines. But Dana wanted to know, how long after sending in the CBR application should the applicant expect to get their fingerprint information if everything is all good to go?
Great question. So once they have received their fingerprinting, is that the one that
after they send in their application, how long should they expect to get the fingerprint information, to get the letter, the code?
Got it. So you should be receiving that within around 2 to 3 business days. Once we receive the application, we should, at this point, we're getting those verified and sent over pretty quickly here, like within about one business day, and then it takes around 1 or 2 more business days to get the initial checks done and sent that fingerprint letter. Now, the one thing I will say is that the mail sometimes has a variance in like how long it takes to send. But if you are in a really big hurry and you need to get relief right away, you can always email our customer service team and ask for a rush on the application. And as long as I always have to throw in the caveat that these are background checks. So there is sometimes people have things come up on their background check, and we have to be extremely confidential with that information. So we will do the best we can as long as a background check is looking really clean and there's no additional information we need, and that individual hasn't resided out of state in the last 5 years. We should be able to move it pretty quickly for you.
Thank you, Alicia. We also have another question, was that somebody wants to know, why do they need to keep doing their fingerprints? Isn't it on file once they do it?
Oh, that's such a good question. Actually, we are prohibited from storing fingerprinting information, and that is because we are not actually an agency who oversees anything that's related to criminal justice. We have access to that information as a non-criminal justice agency, but we are not allowed to keep fingerprinting on file, and that's per law.
Thank you, Alicia. Allison or Karina, do we have any Facebook questions that need to be pulled into this conversation?
Ronnie, we had one question on Facebook. Alicia, you had a slide with some great questions to consider if someone's applying. Do you know if those are currently a part of our frequently asked questions on the website?
They are not quite ready yet. We are in the process of finalizing a technical assistance document that licensors will have available to give to you. And we will also get that posted on the web as well for reference. My thinking is that we're going to get that document done here within the next couple weeks.
Excellent. And these slides will be available on the Early Learning Division website as well. So we'll have it covered in the meantime. Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you. Alicia, I think that's it for now.
Great.
No more questions. Oh, wait, don't go.
Happy to stay.
Yeah. Okay, so Side of the state between. So sometimes I think Yolanda is saying that sometimes the mail takes longer. So even though we expect to get that fingerprint card out 2 times information, if they're living on the other side of the state from the Salem office, it might take a couple more days in the mailing system.
Yes, that sounds accurate. And you know, one of the things that we're really looking forward to when we get a new provider management platform is that we'll be able to have less correspondence through the mail and more correspondence through our system or over email. So we look forward to that. And although that is a few years out, we certainly recognize that, yeah, the mail can take longer depending on where you're mailing from. And, you know, depending on the time of year, that can also contribute to different timeframes.
Thank you. We also had another question from Becky that said, why do some people get emails and others are getting letters in the mail?
I think I need to have some more information.
Okay. I think, yeah, well, we'll need to give Becky some time and maybe we'll be able to come back to it.
Yeah, or I can certainly contact Becky offline as well and try to get her question answered if I can get some more context.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all clear.
Thank you so much, Alicia, for the time and going over this super important and timely information as well. It looks, okay, the question is in. Becky has responded to us. Says some applicants get fingerprint letters while others get them in the mail. And maybe just an overview of what that communication process might look like in general. And would be helpful. Alicia, I'm not sure if that's context is helpful.
Yeah, I'm still not feeling like I have a good answer for that, Becky, without checking in with my background team on why that would be one way or not the other, or if we do it both ways, or you know, my understanding is that we do it through the mail, and it could be that we do through email if somebody's asked for a rush on the background check, but I would want to confirm completely what the process is on that particular point.
Thank you for that. And for like that question, Becky, we should have your contact information and can get back to you as well. As Alicia said, you know, just to have a little bit more information and make sure that you have the answer to your question. We don't have any other questions in the chat, and we've got all of the questions that we've seen come through via Zoom and on Facebook as well. So we'll, you know, give a few minutes back to your evening. Do want to remind that we will have a survey pop up here for you to complete and let us know if this session was helpful and what else we can provide. And we have our next regular scheduled session for the month of July. So we will by then be the Department of Early Learning and Care. And you should expect, you know, to see some changes that will remain the same, and other work will kind of. Thanks so much for your time that you've shared with us this evening, for all of the work that you do. And may you all stay cool and hydrated in this warm weather. Thank you.